Betting for every esports fan. Dota 2 and Hearthstone, CSGO and Overwatch, StarCraft 2, the choice is yours. Express bets for multiple matches or live bets on the game you are watching right now. Know your way around Dota 2? Make a prediction for picks and bans. Playing CSGO? Guess the number of rounds in a certain match. Daily quests for all participants and all the best choice of payment systems. More than 600,000 users have already made their bets on the spectacular matches since 2011. EGB.com. You know for sure who's gonna win.
Welcome back to the StarLadder I-League Invitational. Our second series of the day has been a marathon, but we are moments away from our pivotal Game 3 draft. as Alliance is facing off against VG.J. The winner will move on to our final series of the day with a semifinal spot on the line. The loser will have to play for their tournament life 2 days from today. I'll bring back in our four-man panel, guys. Long road here, but we're about to see the pivotal game. We started talking a moment ago about adjustments for VG.J. All of us, I think, believe that execution-wise, they've had a slight edge in this series, but that Game 2 draft went against them. What do you want to see them do differently here in Game 3?
Don't give up Sven.
Not everybody wants.
Yeah. I don't like giving up Sven.
You think it was the Sven pick?
No, I mean, the Sven is still going to be a 1-2 pickup, but I don't know. I feel like the hero is quite strong, and they didn't have really the appropriate answer. They had such a weird, like, they had to kill and kill and kill and kill, and you had so few win conditions. Well, Alliance had a lot to work with. They had a lot of early game. They could have just won team fights early, and that would have been the end of the game. They could have, stalled out eventually, and they'd win late game. There was many options for Alliance. So they've got to get themselves better win conditions, whether that's securing themselves late game or just a better push lineup, one or the other. That's the kind of way I'm looking at this patch right now.
Yeah, I think really part of what you're saying about the win conditions was that Alliance just got so much value out of that support Leshrac. 278 gold per minute was the lowest on the team, but still third most damage, almost 24k damage, and almost 5k building damage out of that Leshrac with very few resources. That's a hero that played in that position. I think you get a lot of value out of.
Well, I think too that that changes if Lina doesn't get shut down so hard mid, because then he just gets blown up at the start of the fight also. So that's another thing, I think. It's securing Freeze's lane against Limp, and then probably, to me, that says, like, I like the idea of banning out Io Chen. I don't think that they have to. They can, like, solve it in other ways, but then they had to go for, like, the third pick CM, which, based upon the yell that we heard from ROTK from across the room, he wasn't too happy seeing the Chen pick come out because he didn't want to take that CM, I think. But they needed some type of answer like that. So it sort of amounts to the same type of thing, which is, either securing it early or...
I think there's a couple of trends in this series starting to emerge. First, you talked about Freeze. We have seen in some recent tournaments that Freeze has struggled a bit as a mid, not just in terms of not being on the same page, but the team will often, as they say, just kind of let him go, or maybe not protect him as much. He often ends up with not having as good of a game, especially with a hero like Lina, as we've mentioned, that has become weaker in some sense. As far as the Leshrac goes, in terms of providing value, it could very well have been a good value pick for baiting out certain picks from VG.J as well. If they thought it was a core Leshrac, maybe the Lina is kind of a response to that. They weren't sure what position it was, ended up being a support. So in that sense, in terms of whether you protect Freeze, in terms of their choice of cores this time going up against Sven, they picked two relatively squishy cores that need either a great start, a very precise start where they're ahead, or they need items to be able to keep them alive during fights. Again, we think that VG.J's execution is pretty good. That's starting to emerge in this series. Their pinpoint execution in team fights, their ability to kite the Sven, it was very good throughout the game, but to be in that position and still ultimately lose the game, I think some adjustments have to be made in the draft.
And once again, I want to give a shout out to our sponsor, EGB.com. You can go to that site and place bets on the individual maps or on the series as a whole. And here you can see Alliance, quite the underdogs coming in here. A little bit surprising to me. I think you guys before the series were saying, I believe at least two of us thought that Alliance was going to win.
Yeah, I think that they have like a pretty wide hero pool and a lot of different ways to go with like all of their positions. And I think that also just like the momentum going into it, they didn't have a ton, but you also look at like VG.J, who basically played no official games leading up to this, whereas Alliance were grinding out a lot of official games. So in my eyes, that always tilted a little bit more into the favor of the team that's been playing more. We don't know what's going on behind the scenes, but that was sort of my impression.
You know what I wonder if we're going to see? I think we're going to see, finally, supports getting banned this patch. Yeah. Because really, for the last couple of patches, the support meta became extremely concentrated, and yet, other than the roaming supports, the Monkey Kings and the Earth Spirits, we did not see, up until Kiev, when Wisp started getting banned again, we really didn't see much in the way of support bans. I think you're going to see supports picked at the top of the draft, and you're going to see a lot of supports banned, as we're talking about Io and Chen in this series.
Yeah, I can definitely see some supports in this patch being valued. enough. I'm trying to think whether or not Crystal Maiden is value enough. I think the hero's still a nice opener, but I don't think it's necessarily one of those heroes that you ban away.
No, I mean obviously it's not, right? Because in the last patch, that hero was most picked by a mile, and it was almost never banned.
How many points do you get out of your prediction, Alan?
Bam! Right there's
really
the old man getting shot in the face.
Yeah,
Grant and I. You had Merlini. I had Grant.
You were carrying, buddy. But hey, SG Esports won. They did win 2 games.
Yeah.
They did.
There you go.
I call that too.
Yeah.
Go SG.
I
did not think they would beat you.
No, I don't think anybody on the planet thought that.
I mean, I think that like the CM, going back to that point about do you ban it out or not, it does enable so many types of early games out of the teams, right? Like you end up seeing some of those like roaming support heroes who were not necessarily irrelevant, but we don't see as often anymore, like Earth Spirit and stuff, become actually good again, at least with the CM aura early and being able to move around the map.
And spamming cores is really good,
Yeah.
so Crystal Maiden is favorable in that regard.
Yeah.
I don't know, I think
I mean,
Can't
you can
remember
make an
how
argument that the Arcane Aura is even better now that you don't have the guaranteed early regen from Shrines.
Yeah.
I'm not set on Legion Commander being first ban material, by the way. That's
No,
been for
no.
every single one of our series, but
I think LC is still really good, but I don't think we know enough about this patch to ban that hero in the first place.
yeah. So maybe that's where the switch up will occur. But what are you gonna do? What are you gonna ban from Alliance? Maybe you take out the Sven.
I would rather give away Sven than I or Chen.
But I think if you
First
ban away the Chen, then you get Enchantress,
Right.
and that's still going to be similarly problematic for you. I think Io, Chen,
Maybe.
Enchantress, maybe in this maybe in this third game because they've already shown the Chen once. One of those 3 is going to be like first pick material for Alliance, because if I was VG.J, I would approach that and try and ban like those supports by the third, fourth pickup.
Yeah, I definitely agree with that. I think, especially in the early days of the patch, there's something to be said for making a team do something new, because teams have only had so many days to scrum, right?
The reason that I kind of like the idea of the Chen too is we saw a couple of sendbacks in this game, which is something that he does bring to the table. Then
A
the
couple of
global
really,
heal as
and
well.
on Loda too, and on Loda at a time when he was way ahead. Those were very pivotal.
But I think that Enchantress does like provide more damage and stuff. It depends on like what they want to put all around the rest of the draft as well. So I don't know. But it felt like that was the sort of catalyst for all of their early game movements, taking objectives. It was sort of the same thing that the Ursa brought for VG.J last game, right? You end up getting an early Roche taking lineup, and then you have all these other heroes built around it, so that way you actually can take those objectives.
The other thing I'd say is that after both of the series, I think you have to have some kind of safety valve for your mid laner, because in one of the games we saw Tinker die 7 times before 25 minutes. In that game we saw Freeze's Lina just get ridiculously picked on. Supports have a lot more to do in the early game of this patch, but at the same time you have to have a contingency plan where if your mid starts getting picked on to that extent, it's tough when there's a Chen, like that Chen played in the enemy jungle.
Yeah.
And I thought, by the way, it was a very nice decision to have Sven on the top lane.
Yeah, the switch up, dodging the aggro tri-lane that was coming out from VG.J with their gyrocopter, trying to take advantage of the Chen. It's one of the problems of running these 4 positions. Sometimes you expose your safe lane to an aggro lane. Tide Kunkka, I think that was kind of set for Alliance. That was their bans from the second game, right?
Yeah.
And the game one kind
This
of
time around, Wisp. And
Will it be?
they banned
Yeah,
Chen,
I
but I
think
think
that's-
Alliance.
You think they're first pick Enchantress?
Not necessarily first pick, but what's a hero that's more valued than them? They got the Leshrac last time.
Oh yeah.
Okay, so Alliance, I believe, ran Clock SF more than any team in the previous patch. And
They
that's
still
something
run Clockwork even without SF too.
Yes, they do. They do.
really like that hero.
I think SF is a very good mid for this patch.
Yeah.
We haven't seen it yet, but and I think that's what VG.J actually needed was that kind of building hitter from their mid position when they're running a gyrocopter like that. Because especially right now with the gyrocopter, unless you just absolutely dominate the game. In fact, we saw VG.J kind of dominate the game, and they were still behind in Gyrocopter's item progression. He was fine in net worth, like comparatively to the enemy cores, but you need to be so much farther ahead. And the objectives you're gaining out of Gyrocopter's aggression is just giving you a lot less.
I like this open so much better from VG.J. You focus on a lane dominating support that Alliance does pick up the SF. They've used this open a lot. This was something that the Cole guys used to like as well. Get Limp off to that very strong start in lane with 17 souls. But the Ogre Troll was a hero that I thought could have fit in either of VG.J's first two drafts. And the focus on the lane dominating support, I really like that Ogre.
So the other thing about this, Freeze in the past couple days has been spamming out, well, not spamming out, but playing a couple of different games of Troll. I think 2 of them in the mid, 1 of them in the safe lane as well. And so it feels to me like they could think about going back for that route. It's kind of a little bit scary against the Shadow Fiend though, and particularly if he ends up starting off the game with a ton of souls.
I think expecting the Shadow Fiend to come, they end up getting the Ogre. They still have flexibility with the second core pick, but Ogre's a hero we've seen traditionally come and help that mid or maybe keep him off the lane a little bit. If the Shadow Fiend gets off to a bad start, that could be something to watch out for. Not as easy to go recover, obviously, or to go Shrine in the early game in this patch.
Templar Assassin was definitely very important ban here. OD synergy-wise works very well with VG.J's lineup. I'm not sure if you want to run it against the SF with souls. That really does change the matchup for a lot of heroes that would be perfectly fine with a matchup against SF. For example, like I think Bristleback would be a great hero to have for VG.J against what I'm seeing so far out of this Alliance draft. I think it's going to be pretty aggressive. And I think Bristleback would do wonders for covering your mid game and making sure Troll gets the late game. But I don't know how favorable that matchup is for Bristleback if the SF has the souls to begin with. If he doesn't start with souls, Bristleback is great versus SF. But with the souls, it may be a different story. Sniper.
I feel like a Magnus ban might have been warranted there. Like, ROT guys haven't been playing it a ton, but you have Ogre, Troll. I don't know. Do you guys think that's worthy of taking tier 3 here? I feel like it might be.
I think it's interesting that Alliance is very much all in on this being a safe lane Troll, which that's more likely, but there is still the possibility of a mid Troll. Like it's certainly an unfavorable matchup against an SF with souls, but again, you know, mid rotations can offset a lot about these 1v1 hero matchups, and an Ogre is a hero that is perfectly capable of going dual mid full time.
To answer your question, Gabe, I think one of the problems with picking Magnus here is that the clockwork, it would work very good for VG.J's lineup, but going against clockwork is hard for Magnus. So I think it does decrease the value of that pick. They may still grab it, but clockwork is very disruptive for what is kind of one of those like clean team fight setup heroes. Those Tides and Enigmas and Magnuses, you know, those big ultimates that they want kind of a very clean fight to make their initiation. Clockwork makes everything messy because he usually gets his initiation first. There's the Crystal Maiden.
I think going forward, I think Alliance really better have a plan to protect this SF mid, because I honestly think VG.J is going to come after Limp hard in this matchup.
Wonder why they picked Disruptor. I think for me, Disruptor as a support says you're going to be very aggressive.
That's a mid troll.
So Lifestealer is definitely an aggressive carry, and then they get some sort of aggressive vehicle for their offlane, because you can't. It's hard to play Disruptor defensively, right? You would much rather be the ones forcing fights, forcing initiations, and making the enemy run away from you, where Glimpse is powerful.
I feel like it wouldn't be bad, honestly, to run clock support here and like take the Omni Knight or something. Guardian Angel is quite good. They're just going to take Slardar instead. More initiation. It's like that secondary source too now, so you can have the follow-up. Like if the fight starts to get a little bit messy in there with Clockwork, then you can, you know, just isolate one of those cores. I still really like Magnus a lot for VG.J.
10 seconds remaining.
Order also makes a nice combo for VG.J's lineup, and I think this is a bit more straightforward in terms of the execution. As you mentioned, you want to be ahead usually with Disruptor. I think what this game looks like, if it works successfully for them, is the Ogre helps the Troll mid, keeps the Shadow Fiend down a little bit, or puts a lot of pressure on Alliance, and then with Disruptor and Lifestealer, they're able to just keep controlling the pace and tempo from then on, and Alliance aren't able to really safely farm or get what they need. So I kind of like VG.J's direction in this draft a bit more than the last one.
Interesting that we've gotten this far, and this is something you were talking about, Cap. Legion Commander is still in the pool.
Yeah,
And that's definitely something that VG.J has run.
maybe. Well, it's versus a Clockwork, but vehicles for the Lifestealer, Earthshaker. I don't think Legion might be too slow this game for them. Axe?
Axe is still really
Axe
good for
against
them.
SF.
I really hate picking Axe into clock, but
Yeah. There are a lot of offlaners you don't
yeah,
like
you don't
picking
like to,
against
yeah,
clock.
exactly.
So I think you just kind of have to bite the bullet and say whatever's best versus SF and whatever this.
And there's the PA.
Alliance
Okay.
hero is.
I actually really like the PA against the Troll.
Yeah.
This is a matchup that we talked about earlier. I think she's one of the few heroes that can stand toe-to-toe with the Troll. She's a natural MKB builder as well.
But Alan, how does Solar Crest, the new True Strike, go against the Evasion?
Jesus.
Well, that is like the one case in the game where this stupid 25% True Strike mechanic actually works pretty well. Against PA's Blur, it's actually decent. Against most other things, it's
That was actually a legitimate question.
Oh.
I didn't know what the math was.
so what? Max level Blur is 40%. So it takes the way it works is it takes away a quarter
50,
of your
it's
evasion.
50, right?
It's
Yeah.
50. Okay, so it takes away basically it gives you 12.5 extra %
12.5%,
chance to hit her.
okay.
Yeah,
That's not terrible. But
it's not. It's pretty bad. Still.
Yeah, that's.
The Abaddon here, I'm not sure how I feel about this.
I mean,
They don't
it's a
have
classic for ROTK.
It is a classic
loves
for
the hero.
ROTK, but they don't have.
They take
a
off,
lot of team fight.
They take off Corrosive Haze with the shield.
Yeah.
Pretty nice.
No?
I think it's good protection against the PA. The worst thing you want is this amp that allows the PA just to be able to jump and guarantee get these kills. So I think the Abaddon really helps protect against that. And as long as you, because of the fact that Alliance have chosen a mid-game hero that doesn't take towers, it's just the SF, then like they didn't have to get this initiation, I think. They decided like all we have to do is protect ourselves against the PA, and we push this to late game.
All right, well, going into this game, guys, I think all of us said that we thought VG.J had executed a little better, and if the drafts were relatively even, we favor them. Are we sticking by that?
Yep, I'm sticking by VG.J for this game and for the series.
I'll go back to Alliance. I said I thought they'd win earlier. We'll stick with it. I think they got it.
Yeah, I think we're 3-1 for VG.J. One more game in this series. Winner goes on to our last series of the day. Loser has to fight for their tournament life on Saturday. One more time, let's throw it out to our casters. Here are Coddle Guy and Lacoste.
Thanks, Nahaz. We are here at the caster desk, ready to bring you Game 3 hype. VG.J versus Alliance. Should be a doozy. The panel felt that the draft was pretty close on this one, but that VG.J is a team that can execute a bit better, and they felt that they were going to be the team to take it. What do you think?
Overall, I'm like VG.J's lineup more, especially with that Abaddon last pick. He can remove Slaughter ulti, he can protect pretty much anyone, so PA is not that much of a damage dealer, and she won't go on a target that has shield on. Also, with all the buffs for Lifestealer from Bloodlust and Troll, I think they have super late game secured.
Here, of course, we're going to be seeing the cheese, if you will. Shadow Fiend clock combo will allow the Shadow Fiend to waltz to the lane with just a few bits of extra souls, extra firepower to work with to give him even more of a significant laning advantage. Dota's a great game. Here is now a smoke approach, though, coming out from VG.J. I like this. You actually can take advantage of the situation. You already can predict what Alliance are going to be doing with the Cogs and with the Shadow Fiend, and now you can almost use that to your benefit to catch them off guard with an approach possibly like this one. And it looks like poor EGM could be the one to suffer the wrath of the First Blood. And indeed, it is going to be FY who picks it up, and VG.J will start with your First Blood.
Yeah, good reading from VG.J. They know Shadow Fiend will try to kill the cogs and get the rune there, so they get the first blood. Who gets it actually? Ogre gets it. So
nice pickup, and they will get back to their laning phase, and already they might have FY here to the assistance of Freeze. Freeze is going to be going against this matchup where the Shadow Fiend is going to have a bit of a spicier right click, you could say, so he's going to need the extra assistance.
yeah, I'm wondering how ROTK is going to do on top lane. He has a poor man's shield finished. There's an action going on him, but there's no shrine right now. 5 minutes cooldown from the start, so he will need to be careful. Right now, or just bring some extra region, or have Ogre rotated on top.
RTK had played the Abaddon in the offlane for quite a while. It was funny because at the start of the series, I believe it was Jack, who was talking about ROTK, who loves watching a lot of the Western scene and taking some ideas from him. And offlane Abaddon is a American classic, won by Logan of the community, made that pub strat happen, and then was quickly adopted by the likes of like IX Mike and Bulba and such. And it was quick fire, and now it's going to die, it looks like, potentially. RTK could be in a bit of trouble here, but he does manage to get that shield off at the end, and it's Anskin who's able to barely make it away from trouble. He'll be fine for now.
Yeah, he needs to go back to his shrine or just heal up completely. Mid lane, though.
Oh, quick takedown right there. It's going to be the Shadow Fiend who's dropped, and a successful start again for VG.J here, game number 3. Early Shadow Fiend takedown. He's going to lose all that soul power. Not all of it,
Back
but
to 9.
a chunk of it.
Yeah, C9. So bottom lane, Clockwork got some XP. He's almost level 3. Has a wind lace, and when he gets his boots up, Fenrir should be really careful about it. I mean, he has a kinetic field, and that's pretty much it. If he gets the good battery assault, he can solo kill him.
In the meantime, it does look like there was an Invis rune at the bottom lane for
Oh,
FY
not
to grab
again.
up, and he's going to take it right to the mid lane here. They just got finished bringing down Limp just moments ago. A double takedown would just be super power for
He even
VG.J
has
at
an
the
orb
start.
of venom.
Oh, it's bottom where the skirmish is going to break out. Looks like Jonas will be able to make it away on the back of the TP there, and they make their move in for Limp, but Hanskin will be here as the gatekeeper. Tells them to slow their roll. Limp will be fine and pops it south.
Yeah, you see, with the recent changes, Clockwork and the Baron, they already had to move back to the base, heal up.
Yeah.
So they're not going to get as much levels as before. ROTK still being level 1.
Missing out on the first 5 minutes of that shrine action is definitely a tough blow, in particular to the off-laners, but even the mid-laners too, not being able to fall back on that in case things get a bit too rough. Puts a lot more value back into the laning phase, and again, remind the value in the deny game too, and you can see it there. Shadow Fiend's, of course, a bit inflated because of the cogs, but even the lifesteal, 11 denies being chunked together for aggressive, trying to take away as much as possible from Clockwork and gain even more for himself. He's getting chased down at the moment from a battery assault. It's going to eat a few smacks on the back. Will force him to go into that salve, but not too troublesome.
Baron still struggles to get his levels. He's on top. All right, at least he has a rune coming up pretty soon. Enough gold for boots of speed, so he'll be more mobile. He needs to be careful about using that aphotic shield before Crystal Maiden uses Bite.
I would imagine that Alliance will be privy to that and hoping to hold out the Frostbite as much as possible here. Jonas and FY will be just exchanging some blows here, but FY is eventually going to catch him with the stun. Fenrir has shown up, and with that kind of power, they're going to be able to get the finish. It's Jonas who gets dropped, and VG.J who are now up 3-0 at the start of this one.
Yeah, Shrek is all over the place. 3 kills, has almost enough gold for Tranquil Boots and just some Infused Rain Rep, extra mana region, and to block the damage coming out from Shadow Fiend because he will focus on the mid lane again.
Ogre, lots of mileage here for FY in this one. Making a serious impact in the mid game, and now they're catching out Jonas from the off lane too. See Hanskin trying to build up a couple of stacks here. This new jungle spawn every minute has got to be something awesome for Shadow Fiend, I'd imagine. one to normally fall back on the jungle. Now he's going to have even more creeps to be able to burst through with those raises.
Yeah, Freeze just pushes the lane, so he's not being threatened. Let's see, do they have a scan? They do. He sees that 2 supports are missing. Should be really careful right now.
Hanskin is trying to creep in there, but it is a difficult one to approach. Say the same here. It's going to be Jonas who's able to bump back some trouble. Avoids the potential Fenrir getting close with a glimpse and pulling him back into an awkward spot. It is very apparent VG.J are definitely going out on the aggressive at the start of this one. And it's not stopping yet. Just after that little bit of a scuttle there in the bottom lane, they've already popped a smoke. And they are creeping on in. They get a ward to the high ground to see exactly where Limp is. And look at that. They're going to commit in and get a good kinetic field that actually traps him in. The follow-up stun will be there. Hanskin shows up, but they send him right back packing with a glimpse. They'll be able to move in and go for the finish and get it done. VG.J now up 4-0. And they even force out additional rotations. Jonas swings through.
Yeah, what a play from Troll. The instant move on the side. Oh,
nice deny. From Alliance takes away the rune benefit there for Freeze.
yeah, Loda went for super aggressive build. He sees who's playing the carry on the other side. It's aggressive. He says, I need to be as aggressive as I can. Blightstone plus Orb of Venom. That's not paying off right now. He's going to turn 1 into Deso later, but they couldn't get a kill on a Baron, so kind of useless to have that Orb of Venom right now.
As we see RTK working his way through the jungle nearby. Bottom lane now where Aggressive is making his move in. They get the open wounds. Kinetic field. It's all but certain that Jonas could be done for this one, and they get it with Aggressive using the Infest pop. A little clockwork will be broken down into a pile of scrap, recycled up, turned into a soda can, probably.
Yeah, VG.J doing...
Oh, ROTK, see you later. Alliance going to be able to get themselves on the board now. Loda gets some good crit damage in, and EGM with a good flank.
Yeah, VG.J just needs to continue putting the pressure on a mid lane. Shadow Fiend is sitting on 50 CS, but struggles to get some actually decent farm. He died twice already. Just giving some space for Slaughter on a mid because he moved to the forest, but it's going to be a death of a Slaughter probably.
Slaughter needs to know that mid lane is tough, and he will learn it the hard way. The second he shows up to try to, casually farm some creeps, the Goon Squad suddenly shows up from VG.J, and, well, they beat the snot out of him. The rotational power and support staff from VG.J has been quite ridiculous here. FY Fenrir, power duo.
And that's what they're known for, pretty much.
Okay.
Clockwork is in.
Okay. Load up with the rotation to the bottom lane, but the aggressive TP out.
Yeah, Loda with a rotation, but Rage TP, they got nothing to stop it because hookshot was used. Loda will continue to farm on the bottom lane, or
yeah, he'll stay down there. If he had just a little bit more loving from the crit, maybe, but not going to be happening. Limp apparently cancels out his TP scroll, and he's going to just reside in the jungle for now, but there he is. It's FY. He has been putting Limp in check pretty much this whole game. And look at this. Oh, no. Freeze is now rushing his way in. He's going to help to go for the finish, and they got it done. Nowhere feels safe for Alliance. They will be able to get a little bit of response here, freezing up and locking down FY under the tower, but the takedown of Shadow Fiend is certainly worth it.
Oh, Clockwork.
Okay, suddenly a wild Jonas shows up right near the Roche pit. Is going to be able to trap in Freeze. Freeze gets hit with a bump back, and they glimpse back Jonas, lock him in, but he's able to get the rocket off and takes him down.
Oh, there's a lot of action going on this game. I mean, this is the forced reaction for Alliance to react to because of those Ogre Magi and the Disruptors rotations early on. And even with the Troll, they're diving tier 2 tower at 10 minutes. That's not really what you see every day.
I mean, that was... With the Ignite and the clubbing coming in, it was all but certain that they were going to be able to get the finish onto that Shadow Fiend. But yeah, they do end up losing their Troll at the end of it there. It makes it a little less palpable. But they're back into the prime ground now, and it's a aggressive versus Loda matchup with the Ogre kicker on the side. A little bit of free farm for Fenrir in the mid lane. We're getting close to 10 minutes. These supports have to try to bulk up to the level 6. We'd love to see them get that kinetic field online, for example. And then any sort of multicast potential.
Yeah, Ogre is level 6. If you get to level 6 at 10-minute mark, you should be happy.
Oh yeah,
That's
for sure.
That's the rule.
That's a support. That's a very heavy support, level 6 by 10 minutes for sure. And Fenrir's going to do it the old-fashioned way. Here, farming up through the mid lane. Okay, bottom lane. Nice, convenient multicast going to be there. Aggressive looks to follow it up. Loda, can he blink strike to someone? He's waiting for the approach of the Shadow Fiend. Will blink strike right over to that. And that's when VG.J will make their exit here. Not before Aggressive finds himself inside a creep. They're pinging it out right now. Aggressive's going to be able to make it out here. He could just take the creep and walk away. Uh-oh. Now they hit it up with the amp. They burst it down. Aggressive's forced to pop out. And now has to rage TP home, but they got him with the hook shot. And now he's going to be brought down. Good patience from Alliance there. Even them to take that.
Yeah, even with the death of Aggressive, they're giving so much space to Abaddon on top lane. He wants to go for like a phase boots, but will probably skip it and just get that into Midas. Oh.
It looks like a borrow time was forced out there from ROTK, and he'll simply TP back when he feels like trouble could be coming. He had been a bit of a silent one for his team on this one. It has ROTK, but I'm sure he'll be that paramedic for the team soon enough, and they might need him at the bottom lane sooner than later. Alliance have still lots of attention on that tier 1. But it looks like Freeze is going to try to do a bit of split pressure here. A tier 1 for him in the mid lane right now.
Yeah, Alliance can't really push right now. They tried to force a man fight on the bottom, but couldn't do it, so they lost the tower. Some extra gold for that Abaddon, who's going to get really decent timing on that Midas, 100 gold away.
And then do you suppose any reason he changes his build-up of going into something like a Radiance, or do you think he might consider other options now?
Well, maybe a Solar Crest against all these heavy right-clickers, Shadow Fiend, Phantom Assassin,
That's
and
true.
Slardar. Everyone has minus armor thingy, so.
That is very true. Loda hasn't queued up his next item yet, could decide to finish out the Deso sooner than later. Jonas spots out Freeze here and decides to hook shot in because he has help nearby, but that's when Fenrir steps in, hits him up with the Static Storm, and then they suddenly just kind of turn onto the Clockwork and take him out.
Well, Clockwork, he shouldn't be there alone. I mean, he can't get a solo kill even on Disruptor. He can send him back. Maybe Ogre, but Ogre with Urn of Shadows, he's so tanky.
Looks like VG.J are going to make a rotation now towards the top lane where Loda had been free farming for a while, looking to put their attention towards maybe their next tier 1 they'd like to go for. Meanwhile, now rotating ROTK towards the bottom lane side. It's him and Aggressive there right now. Send back though of Loda, puts him back towards the top lane actually, but Henskin's going to be able to move in with the crush and get the finish on that one. He's slotted up a Blink Dagger, he's getting closer to it, and that will help get him there that much faster. EGM and company will TP out before trouble will come, and they avoid getting picked off. Loda thinking about diving in and going for the Ogre.
Yeah, good play by Alliance on the two sides of the map. On bottom lane, they managed to get a tower and TP it out, got a kill on mid. Also, we didn't talk about Slardar with one more CS. He's gonna have enough gold for a Blink Dagger. 40-minute Blink Dagger, position 4 Slardar is,
It's magnifique. Very nice. And allows a initiation potential now. And also just someone to really get the party started. Jonas stepping back into action here. It's obviously going to be notating the big ancient camp being built up for VG.J right now. But there's an approach coming from Alliance, and Jonas is even going to be sweeping in from behind, it would appear. They'll see the rocket there. And VG.J will probably know that this is not a safe area for them. Oh, look at this. And then Alliance rotate to the bottom lane instead and make the audible to go for a smoke. This is going to be a nice approach. VG.J are not suspecting. And they spot out Aggressive. Now they already commit the hook shot, so he could go for a rage out, but it looks like he doesn't have a mana for a TP. So he's got to eat the cog and try to go out the other direction. Starts walking towards where the tier 1 would have been and towards ROTK. But now they're going to put their focus onto ROTK and finish him off. He ends up getting dropped. They'll settle for that one, but they may also be able to score a double takedown. Beautiful setup comes in from Hanskin.
Alliance is all over the place, man. They're top, they're bottom again. What's with the cooldowns on their
yeah,
TPs?
I don't know. They were okay. Yeah, Alliance really just getting all hands on deck for that one. Come out huge with their bottom lane ambush. Can't quite follow it up with any further objectives, but it definitely sets them a bit ahead. Jonas will be heading up and towards around the corner. Still kind of keeping that ancient camp in check here.
Yeah, we expect a lot of force staffs to be built this game. Against Clockwork, it's a must-have. Also against Nikes. There's actually 3 force staffs queued up on the side of Alliance.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, this is gonna be fun.
Yeah, that's a really smart call. Obviously, the Force is already very good against the Clockwork, but it's potentially even kite away from the PA is going to be just incredibly potent. So VG.J just trying to itemize appropriately to be able to bring them back a bit. It's only a slight advantage at the moment for Alliance. And it looks like now we have a mic problem, unfortunately. And calling for the admin to assist them on their matter. That's just appropriate. All right, so where do we stand? 8-8 net worth, pretty much split down the middle on this one. It's Alliance really flexing a lot of their team play and rotations already. But what do VG.J, do you think, have to do to fend this one off?
I think VG.J is not in a rush right now. The biggest item that is going to come out of them is BKB on Troll. That's when they want to fight, or if they got a pick off with a Disruptor. A Baron, yes, he seems like he's going to go for Solar Crest, maybe into Radiance, so that they have still one more core. Especially with Troll ulti, he deals so much damage. Loda, on the other hand, Phantom Assassin, still 1.4k away from that Deso, but the guy has been all over the place.
Yeah.
Top, TP bottom, get a kill, TP back to top,
After
continue
he,
farming.
After he completes that Desolator.
BKB.
BKB? Okay. That feels appropriate. Moving right into the defensive pickup.
Yeah, well, it removes the blind from Troll,
Very true.
burst from Disruptor. That's the most
Yeah.
significant part. Also against Ogre.
Definitely very juicy pickup for him if he moves into that one. For the others, could also consider some additional force staffs on the side of Alliance here.
Well, both teams have super good Roche lineups, so whenever the next team fight occurs, we're probably going to see a Roche as well taken down.
Yeah, VG.J have all that ridiculous move speed to work with and late game scaling. Looks like they are still kind of sorting out a couple of the issues here on the players' side of things. While there's a mic problem on Alliance's side, apparently they're also missing their mid laner at the moment. Is DC'd out from the game. So they're going to get themselves situated and back into action, it would appear.
Yeah, in the second game, someone was bullying them on the TeamSpeak. Now they broke their mic. What's going on?
I don't know. Hopefully things will continue to get resolved here. It's been an interesting day, number one, as we get into action. If you're just tuning in, I'm sure the hours are quite crazy all over the globe. But this is our second series of Group A action earlier today. Spoiler alert, it was TNC versus IG. TNC kind of shut it down in just 2 games and have earned their spot into our third series matchup today, in which both winners will be facing off. And at the moment, in Game 3, could be really either Alliance or VG.J. All right, this mic's not working, that mic's not working. What about this mic over here? This one working?
Fix this. This guy has been fixing all the things. Like this guy is like Loda in a game, all over the place. Up, down, bottom, right, whatever it's needed.
It's got some cool shorts.
Under the desk.
See his shorts?
No.
Yeah, he's got like some very loud shorts. Unfortunately, they're right behind Loda right now. We can't see him. The red shorts are cool, but not cool enough.
I'm wondering who brings all this water to Alliance. What do you think?
Might be their...
Do they have a water boy?
Kelly's here, but I don't think Kelly's their manager. Used to be. Used to work for Alliance, but if I'm not mistaken, she has stepped away from that. So I'm not sure if she's here just for fun, not for fun, but here supporting Loda and Alliance, or if she's actually here on management or not. It's actually kind of, I can't really tell. But
Again, disconnect coming from Shadowfiend. Seems like, are they changing the PC again?
No, they can't.
No, please no.
What else here? Do we dare talk more about the game? Now, this time
They're
you
ready.
really have the game open. Oh, they're good. We're going. We're on pause. We're getting back to the action. We are going to be talking about the game because the game is underway. Where did we leave off? A recent skirmish by Alliance made a strong movement towards the bottom lane, and they found themselves with 2 precious pickoffs. And now they're going to be looking for potentially more. Spotted out FY, hit him up with the freeze, and then they quickly head the other direction. So, feisty Alliance squad. It doesn't stop there. They double back under their shrine, hit a smoke, and go back to work. Maybe eyes on the mid lane here. Everyone, though, from VG.J are around with the exception of Freeze. He's currently in the top lane, but he could TP and show up.
Oh, yeah. Instant smoke from Alliance with that DD rune picked up. They want to fight. And
Yes,
they're
they
winning.
do. Skin leads in, good stun onto ROTK, and then Jonas is going to be able to bump him back, while on the other side, they set up a static storm. They'll be able to get the takedown of Fenrir. Now it's going to be Loda looking to head to the high ground, but he is eating a lot of damage. The freezing field from EGM does a good amount of work to force VG.J back, and they're going to be able to take down 2. Alliance lose no one. And double back for the tier 1 tower. The glyph will be forced out here from VG.J, but ultimately Alliance will be able to snag it up. It looks like VG.J tried to fend off this gank approach. They didn't even bring in freeze for it either.
This is the perfect execution from Alliance. Plus, they've taken down the tower. They might even consider going to Roche. Abaddon ulti is on cooldown. They will try to get it down. All right, no Deso yet, but only with a Blightstone, they should have enough damage to do it.
Yeah, it looks like VG.J are not really going to be bothering with it. They instead are going to be going for their ancient camp stack. Now, they know this is happening. It looks like they have that vision on the high ground to see Alliance flirting out in front. Jonas, though, is getting a bit curious. Moves on in for aggressive. Is going to be forcing out the rage. And he simply 4 staffs away. And that is an easy Roche pickup. And look at this. Hook shot in for aggressive. Now follow up Frostbite. He gets bumped back to the low ground. They focus some damage onto him, but he's still able to hold on here. But look who's looking to cut him off. Jonas moves in, slides in, tries to catch him with a 4-step battery assault, but can't quite get it. While on the other front, they are going to get the takedown. Fenrir's dropped. The Disruptor picked off on the side. And Alliance begin to move on up even further now, 11-8 with an Aegis in tow.
Yeah, Alliance needs to use this Aegis. Deso is going to pick it up on Phantom Assassin, so pretty much she can take down Disruptor or even Nyx in a few shots.
VG.J have to kind of get back on the recovery grind now. They are banking on more of a later game here. They have lots to build up still. You want to get that crest on your Abaddon. The Troll needs more to go as he is slotted up. I actually didn't quite see what it was.
Yeah, it was first, it was a BKB after the Manta, then it was Shadow Blade, now it seems to be Diffusal Blade. Well, he has enough time, only has 200 gold. You can't buy much with that.
He still holds top of net worth for now, but Alliance hold a lot after that. And it's been an uncharacteristic start for aggressive. He'd been bullied quite a bit and is trying to find himself on the recovery path back.
Yeah, with that Midas, it's going to be a really late Midas pickup on him. He's going to get back into the game, but he needs like another 10 minutes. Plus, he needs to build an MKB if he wants to hit Phantom Assassin.
Pretty good girthy stack going to be farmed up there from Alliance with their team. And then they'll take their party all the way up and through to that top lane where they still have one more tier 1 standing for them to bring on down. We'll see if VG.J are going to be heading that direction as a possible defense. It looks like they're pinging out for a possible smoke play. Yes, they are. And they begin to make their move in. Look who they end up crossing paths with. Jonas nearby managed to pop a couple of the smokes. Now he walks back in and towards the arms of ROTK. Now he just forces himself out the other direction. Aggressive, TP's in, and they look to focus on takedown Jonas. He's done for. Good glimpse pull back on that one. ROTK is borrowed time's gonna get popped up, but now look at the races coming out. Lip begins to chuck him forward, dishing out the right clicks. A nice static storm gonna be dropped from Fender right on top of their head, but they're still moving on in. Aggressive, trying to get a hold of Limp, but he's tagged between Loda and Limp. He goes for the infest, but ends up being forced to pop back out, and he will get evaporated. Loda with the double kill on this one. Alliance take this fight. force VG.J back home.
Not sure VG.J should have fought there. Aegis is still up on LOTA, and that space is so small, especially for Clockwork Cogs and good CM multi. They really can't bypass that. I mean, it's a big ramp, not a big ramp, and it's easily blocked by Clock.
Good choke point to have a team like Alliance fight, and I certainly agree with that. It looked like there was potential there. VG.J also have some decent choke point fighting with that static storm, but it looked like by that point Alliance had gotten off what they needed, potentially. Glimpse pull back onto LOTA. He simply blink strikes away from the trouble. ROTK there to soak in a lot of the damage, but Alliance are looking to siege on at this moment. Now LOTA, considering a dive in, will force out to borrow time. Follow-up's going to be there. Jonas swings in, bumps ROTK closer into his team, and they're looking to move it for the finish, and they will get it. Now for more. Aggressive. Chopping on in with the power of the Troll ulti. Still not going to be enough to even get the finish on the clock.
Perfect execution once again from Alliance. LOTA just trying to use that borrowed time on a baton, and once it's used, Clockwork just goes in instantly, blocks the enemy team with the Cogs. Also with that double force staff, one on the Shadowfiend, one on Clockwork. It's pretty much impossible to fight for VG.J right now.
Yeah, it's a very awkward spot for them, and it already is beginning to feel like they could be in a situation where the map's going to get restricted, and they will not have the farm available to them to take this into the later portions of the game. They have a team that, or they have a draft that just takes time to ripen up, and they're just not going to get that nourishment. It's just too much pressure being built up from Alliance to just playing the lineup appropriately and really taking it to VG.J here.
Yeah, VG.J's lineup definitely needs more time. Needs more items. BKB on Troll, probably at one point. Also, they need that crest finished on a baton. Also, the thing is about Nikes, usually you don't see Nikes not having that big brother he can hop in.
Yeah, there's really nobody here for him to just easily hop in and get into the midst of the fight. If they were even in a position where they were taking an aggressive approach to Alliance in a fight.
With Aegis gone, Alliance can still kill that tier 2 tower so easily.
Yeah, this tier 2 seems to be done for. No presence here from VG.J. They have taken their train all the way up above and will farm through the safe territory of Alliance's side. But Alliance are already moving through and clearing out now tier 2 towers. This is looking all great for them. VG.J just in a frantic farm phase right now. And here comes Alliance. They have smoked up and they're going to be stretching their way right up and through the river, looking to cut off anyone from VG.J's side. They just narrowly miss Freeze crossing the river, but they ping it out now. Are they going to head up that way? No. They head up right towards Fenrir. He's going to be the first one to pop the smoke. He will get quickly taken care of. Nice rocket to spot out where ROTK's going. He's going to go for the hook shot. Yes! Moves in, finds connection right on top of him. And now the borrowed time comes out. LOTA will simply wait for it to be concluded, and then they'll battle it out inside the Cog cage.
Yeah, LOTA just becoming a monster on PA right now. BKB, he has enough gold to buy it. There's pretty much nothing to stop PA right now.
Yeah, you see the frantic farm of Freeze trying to get himself into a relevant position to be able to swing it out with the PA, but it just feels like she's the true fighter right now.
All right, Aggressive is building something interesting. Heaven's Halberd, with the new patch, you can't dispel it anymore with a BKB, so that could do some serious work. Also the evasion coming out from it.
I like this pickup a lot, actually. This could be quite a surprise to Alliance if they're not really prepared for it.
Yeah, the thing is that Alliance has 3 force staffs ready and 1 Glimmer Cape, so they can kite as much as they want.
That's true. He gets up with the one disarm, and then LOTA can call out for it, get some assistance, and they'll bounce them all around. Yeah, Alliance just kind of had that extra resources available to him because of all the successful pickoffs that they have these extra defensive items already ready to go. And now they are restricting the map as much as they can. Getting down some pretty good deep vision. One for now into that mid lane, but they'll continue to dish out their restriction here onto VG.J as much as possible. Yanskin farms it up, but does look like they're going to get more time to work through the Roche here. Oh, what happened?
Yeah, can't see the items on the heroes.
That's funny. Yeah, you can't see the items on your screen anymore. Dota's a game like that, I guess.
Yeah, we'll just switch to another screen, I guess.
10K nearly of a net worth advantage. Swing and a miss on that hook shot there. Alliance just in a firm grasp onto this one. And VG.J will just continue to defensively turtle up a bit and try to hide out for as long as possible. The pressure's on from Alliance's side to just force VG.J indoors as much as possible.
Yeah. Alliance, only one tier 2 left to take down in mid. They can just take it down pretty easily right now and just wait for the next Roche to respawn.
And now it's going to be Alliance sieging in for tier 2s. And VG.J might have to pass on all these opportunities until it's high ground territory where they feel like they might be at best. It's a good choke point for them to get that decent stack storm down, but yeah, again, by that point, it's going to be Alliance who potentially going to have all those extra defensive items ready to go to avoid the trouble. Yeah, your thing is messed up. I don't know if that's Dota or what, but you can join me over on this off
I'll
screen,
join you,
buddy.
man.
Just come over,
Move
scoot on closer. There you go.
Share some love.
Saw a matchup, it looked like there were maybe potential off laners between each side. They're getting a bloodlust on the tower, trying to make it even look bigger and scarier, but eventually Loda will move in and get the last hit done.
Well, they would gladly answer your question, how big is your tower, especially with an Ogre in their team?
Oh yeah, big one, big and girthy. Now it's Alliance going inside the pit, and that Roche dies way fast. And there is our new level 2 cheese. Gonna be picked up by them. Gotta feel pretty good about taking a fight now if you're Alliance. I don't think you even want to stall out much longer. VG.J's lineup is only gonna get more potent with time, and if they learned anything from game number 2, hold on to your advantage while you got it here, Alliance, and
Yeah,
push on in.
It's time to push for Alliance with Cheese and Aegis at 27, and they're in on Nikes. Nice 4-step from Ogre.
He tried to get out there to get that ward down. It could cost him a bit. It cost him his rage and some extra assistance from his comrades to get him inside. Alliance are here at the front door, and they're looking to close this one out. Limp begins to go to work on that tier 3. VG.J are just kind of stuck in a watching position right now. They don't have any good initiators. They have no way to just jump into the fight and make something happen. It's almost as if they're going to have to bank on a misstep from Alliance here to get anything going.
Is the MKB finished on Troll? He had enough gold. Sadly, we can't see it, but
It could be a good pickup.
Could be.
That would allow him to seriously have the man fight against Loda. But he probably went all in for it. It means he doesn't have a buyback here. Alliance playing this one very cautiously and aggressive. Suddenly in for the fight, but right back out. Follow up there from Jonas, looking to get the catch, but Aggressive gets the quick 4-step out to safety. Now they look to isolate Jonas and try to go for the finish, but he does find his way back outside the base. Now it's going to be attention onto the racks here. Kinetic Field continues to lock him inside, but Alliance not overly threatened at the moment. Loda going to be able to move in and help get the finish. Now Limp dishing out the Requiem. A lot of damage onto Aggressive. He's forced back, but still holds on to his life. Alliance will move in for the Roche now. Not the Roche, the racks now, and get the finish there.
Yeah,
2 racks is going to go down. Alliance walk away with a big win. They get the pullback for EGM, and will probably get the Crystal Maiden down. But Alliance are okay with that.
At least it's something, huh?
Yeah, it's something.
Well, with they still have Aegis and the full cheese. So what Alliance should do, just kill that shrine and come back, try to kill the mid-raxes as well, because Aegis is not gonna run out anytime soon.
So now Alliance in firm grasp can pull away. They'll wait for the return of the Crystal Maiden. Probably get these lanes reset a bit. Their bottom lane getting pushed in. They'll get that pushed out again and take it right back to VG.J certainly, while they're not able to kind of get the finish on their items.
VG.J needs to try to move out of the base, get a smoke, try to get a kill. If they engage into 5-on-5 fight against 3 4-steps, 1 Glimmer Cave, and Cheese Aegis, they really can't do much.
Well, VG.J will pull away from the bottom lane. The second Alliance does approach. And Yeah, they're just still scrapping what they can here. Aggressive got that halberd finish and has slotted up the AC in hopes of being able to farm that long, but of course for VG.J you gotta factor in a savings income for that buyback. It's already gotten to that point here for Alliance, and they are striding their way down this bottom lane. They're looking to get it and looking to secure a spot into the next series here if possible.
The thing is, when you're sieging right now in this patch, it's easier to take down the top and the bottom side because of the shrine placements. It's further away, especially on the bottom and the top. They're more concentrated on the mid. I think that's going to be fixed pretty soon.
Here we go. We've seen this story before from Alliance in the top lane, and here it is again. Limp sieging away onto this tier 3. VG.J looking for openings or ways to get themselves into the fight. Aggressive can casually walk into that one, but they just simply bump them off. And Loda can just freely dish out daggers from the low ground as much as he'd like. Finally, they'll connect a brief stun onto Limp, but there's the force.
All Limp needs to do is just hit the tower and turn back when he thinks they're going to initiate on him. So with those 4 staff, Kevin Halberd.
Yep, hits him with the disarm. They hit him with the stun, but he'll simply just raise out the remaining sets of creeps here. Now going back in for it again, they hit him with the open wounds. Daggers continue to fly out from Loda, trying to, maybe he could snipe down some weak supports in the back lines. VG.J are going to be forced to touch that first shrine. It's a long siege here from Alliance, but they're getting closer to taking down this tier 3. It's just a very cautious approach.
I think Aegis is going to run out pretty soon, so they're just backing off.
Not able quite to get the tier 3 finished. They'll settle back and go for probably that shrine instead. This leaves a window of opportunity for Freeze to move in and clinch down those Ancients and get a little bit more farm time going for them.
Oh, there's a big items coming out from the Baron. Radiance in 300 gold. Once he farms the top, he's going to have enough gold to actually buy it. So that might be a big item. Also, if they hold this push from Alliance for the next like 2 minutes, 3 minutes, and give enough time for Troll to actually buy a BKB, they might take a fight then.
That would be so big for VG.J. I just don't know if they're going to be granted that kind of a time here. Alliance are not looking to allow it. They continue to siege away here and trying to being able to take down this tier 3 and closing this one out before those precious items come online, because I'm with you, a Radiance and a BKB comes together and suddenly VG.J's lineup has a lot more potential than it ever did before. But it looks like finally this tier 3 may crumble it down, but as I say, that aggressive scoots on in. Maybe he got forced in, but okay, on the way back end of his rage, follow-up hook shot's going to be there from Jonas. They're going to be able to go for the quick finish of that Ogre as he gets dropped. Tier 3 finally going to be taken apart. Now ROTK going to be forced into his borrowed time. They get a hold of Aggressive here. He turns it around, looking to go for the finish onto Jonas. They drop the Static Storm right on top of those cogs and quickly head out the other direction. Loda trying to find a chase, can't quite get it. Heads back the other side and gets the slash finish onto Aggressive.
No buyback.
Now they look to fend rear. They could be able to burst him down, but the Raxes are exposed, and EGM begins to go to work on them. Handskin fighting, looking to fend him off. Freeze, dishing out the tomahawks, forces Handskin back.
They're still not done. They're continuing to push. Cheese is handled from Loda to Limp.
And he is working his way through that Rax. Now they're able to lock in and take out Freeze. He's going to be forced to buy back. And what could be the final hurrah of a defense? Alliance are able to get their Rax, and they think about walking away. Hook shot a bit all over the place there, but he ends up going down. Good pullback there from VG.J on that one.
The BKBs are on cooldown, but the question is, can they chase?
Quick potential turnaround from Alliance. They're looking to blast apart the Ogre. He gets the force to the low ground. He seems to be barely holding on to his life, but Loda, godlike now, jumps in and takes him down. Woo! And Limp moving in. Huge raise, double kill. Alliance are going to be able to get it done. Puts the nail in the coffin, and VG.J are going to be sent down to the lower bracket of this group. Alliance, we will be seeing them play TNC in the next round.
Yeah, Alliance after the poor performance, not maybe because of the performance, but because of the bad pick during the pick phase, but right now they're showing what they're made of. Like this team play with 4 staffs, like just insane.
Alliance had a lot to fight through in this series. Game number one, you know, very questionable draft, I would say. It definitely gave him a lot of trouble. VG.J were able to get the best of that one. Game number two, very long and exhausting. A game where Alliance had the early game advantage. It got away from them, and they were able to hold on to it. And don't forget about the ridiculous technical issues and pauses that they had to just kind of, you know, mentally work through. And here they are. They get the Game 3 win. Pretty damn convincing, too.
Yeah, they looked so strong in the game number 3. Even after a bad start, especially on that Shadow Fiend, they managed to just completely dominate the game from minute 10.
Wonderful performance from Alliance, and as I said, they will be moving on to face TNC now in the upper bracket of this group. A doozy of a time. Well, we'll go ahead and throw things over to Nahaz and the panel to see what they thought about the series wrap-up.
We are once more here at the StarLadder I-League Invitational as our second best-of-3 series of the day is in the books, and it's not looking so good today for the hometown teams. TNC and Alliance both advance. They will face each other next for a spot in the semifinals, but we've got a series to talk about first. Let me bring back my panel one more time here. Guys, we thought up until that Game 3 that VG.J had executed a little better. I think we saw a different Alliance team in that last game.
And a different VG.J too. I think VG.J looked a lot more lackluster in that Game 3 than they did in the first two games, and Alliance definitely took things to the next step. It felt like Alliance was in a comfort zone for them, for sure.
I don't know. I think the execution for VG.J definitely wasn't where it is, but when you look at their itemization decisions in particular, maybe overcompensating a little bit for that second game going so long with 2 Midases, and then ROTK finishes his Radiance at 35 minutes as the base is going down? I don't know about that.
I think Vlad's was definitely an item that they needed.
Look at Lotus build, right?
Yeah, they didn't need to be greedy for that game. They needed the Vlads on the Abaddon so the Troll could take advantage of it. Troll is really good with the Vlads, so they needed that extra little bit of sustain and damage for all their heroes, because you saw in a lot of these early team fights, they didn't have enough to be able to bring down heroes like the SF, and that really cost them quite a bit. Alliance, meanwhile, they looked really strong, particularly with their initiators.
Yeah. I think that the big thing, too, that I saw was like the clockwork decision. We talked about it a little bit, to go for the 4-staff instead of the blade mill, and then everybody else on the team pretty much building into those 4 staffs, too. You have 2 melee cores that just want to stay on top of somebody and keep hitting them from VG.J, and then you take that away from them by all these defensive 4 staffs, and you know, it ends up working out great. And I think that, like you said, comfort zone is the big thing too. They finally got their clockwork. Like they were able to bait out the Chen ban in the first phase by virtue of that second game, and then they end up getting the heroes that they wanted for the rest of the series.
Yeah, I give you a lot of credit for that, Gabe. You were the only one of us, the 4 of us, that picked Alliance in that game, and you made the point too that their clock SF is more about just the 2-hero combo. Their Unison found extremely confident on that clockwork, and you saw that in the 15-minute fight in the Radiant Jungle that I thought really played a pivotal role in turning that game in Alliance's favor.
You showed kind of the strengths of this hero, and his execution on it was really good, just in terms of being able to separate terrain from 3 right clickers that want to be up in your face. The importance of his execution there, staying alive for more than 1 round during the fight, being able to create or cut into the fight at exactly the right time. He had to play that very well to create that space. In terms of Alliance's lineup, we didn't get to talk about the tail end of the draft as much. The synergy there with the minus armor, with the threat of constantly blowing up a hero, with the hero that has obviously the natural evasion against 3 melee cores. It was a good pick for him. But also you mentioned the itemization. I think that was a big part of this game as well. If you both draft and itemize a bit too greedily, you can be punished for that as well. If you're talking about 3 cores who all need farm to some extent, if you go for the more greedy Radiance variant build on the Abaddon, instead of, we'll see, Universe offlane Abaddon might go for more conservative items, the Vlads, maybe the Solar Crest, something like that. That's more of a supportive utility type of Abaddon. I think that would have fit their lineup better, especially with the other itemization choices that they made. Just too much pressure on them. They all had to get farmed, and in the end, none of them got to that point.
And this is just ridiculous to me. I mean, when you talk about the fact that your 5-position support Ogre Magi leads your team by far in damage, 54-40. I mean, FY he had 100% kill participation through like 20 minutes of the game. He played really well, and I thought for a while that his presence in the mid game was really going to take limp completely out of the game on his SF, but they did rotate Hansken on the Slarga over there just in time and bring him back.
Well, I was just going to say that you mentioned that Ogre in this Shadow Fiend matchup. There was like a 2-minute period in there where Ogre just kept running mid, and then eventually the Shadow, they picked up an Invis rune on the bottom lane, and it looked like Limp was about to walk back in and get killed off. And even one of the other players that was in the lounge was like, oh, Shadow Fiend's dead again. And as soon as they said that, Limp backed up, stood on his hill, and waited out until the Ogre like couldn't end up finding the kill. They ended up killing him 2 minutes later, but still, it was like showing that he was realizing all the trouble he was in and then reacting to it in game.
What's particularly puzzling to me is VG.J's game plan for that game, because I really think they should have gone for some sort of initiator out of their offlane position to give the aggressive lifestealer. Like, you can't afford to try and utilize the lifestealer after like you hit your mid-game swing and Alliance has taken over the map and they've gotten a lot of gold and they've got Force Staffs and Ghost Scepters and all those sort of things, those defensive items on their supports, on their 3 to 5 positions. So you needed to be able to make use of this lifestealer and put him in the SF space a lot better. And so if you chose not to go that route with, by picking an Abaddon instead, then you needed to at least utilize the Abaddon in the most early game fashion that you could. It was like they shot themselves in the foot twice. One, not getting an initiator to utilize this lifestealer like he really should be used. Like, why else do you pick that hero? And then also on top of that, not actually picking up, like, if you're going to go for the Abaddon, why don't you go for the early game focus? Why don't you actually make sure that you're able to fight this team instead of just letting them kind of destroy you in all these team fights?
No, I think that's right. I mean, we talk about heroes like Batrider being consumers of vision. Lifestealer is a consumer of mobility in exactly that same way, that if you're playing Lifestealer on a team with a mobility advantage, he feels so powerful. But on a team like that where it's the other guys that have the Force Staffs, the clock to split apart the fight, and you have no way to get him in, what is he supposed to do?
Yeah, like their game plan again with to win mid with the constant pressure from the Ogre, and then the initiation becomes, we're going to run at you, and anyone who backs away is going to get brought back by the Disruptor. But if you don't manage to reach that phase, or if mid doesn't go that well, so all of a sudden you can't really stand your ground as much. There's ways of cutting in. The Clockwork doesn't die instantly when he tries to divvy up the fight a little bit, and it just looks like a very different game. Then that lack of initiation becomes very apparent.
Yeah, if they have initiation, then they're able to like kinetic field off of that, then the Force Staffs aren't really useful, right? You can't actually get a hero out of kinetic field. I don't know.
Yeah, I think also we talked a little bit about vision earlier, but also in the context of like Alliance, there were a couple of times there where Clockwork, he finds ROTK up in the woods with the flare or something, and then finds the hook shot, which gets the kill. And like these little moments as well, where they find out where the movements are of VG.J around the map, and then go and take the fight in that particular spot. So I think that their draft just sort of hit everything that it needed to, and then, as we said, VG.J weren't able to respond.
Yeah, I think so. Just to keep the audience here up to date, we are waiting just a couple of minutes. I'm told we may have a post-game interview for us. That's unfortunate. We will have a post-game interview that will hopefully begin shortly. But any other comments, guys, for these two teams going forward? I know, Jack, you've been talking about VG.J, and they really needed this tournament to establish a little bit momentum, not the start that they're looking for.
Yeah, I think we all expected this to be kind of a close series, and a lot of uncertainty about these teams coming in. And for VG.J, I mean, if they want to take something away from this, I think again they were able to execute certain strategies very well. And but in terms of drafting, or sometimes in terms of where the resources go, they still have to do some adjustments on this patch, I think. So.
I'm not sure if looking at this, it's actually really surprising to say, but I think TNC might be top of their group.
Oh yeah,
that's kind of crazy to think about, just because they have a new captain that they've literally never played before until they started this first series today. I think that they actually look better than Alliance. I think that their ideas that Theben is bringing to the team about how to be able to play this patch, as well as just the other 4 of TNC still keeping the same kind of very fast play style, I think it's going to be hard for Alliance to be able to keep up.
Yeah, I was interested. I spoke to Theben briefly in the lounge, and it was interesting to me. One of the things he brought up is I like THD because it's just a hero that not a lot of teams have played against, especially in a new patch. It's a hero that gets forgotten about.
Totally. I think that they also, you talk about teams that have a lot to prove and a lot to be upset about. Like they're at Kiev, you think about how different that could have looked for them going into it if they didn't end up facing against like the arch nemesis of their region, Faceless, this team that they've always struggled with. But looks like this is here.
在我身边是刚刚带队取得比赛胜利的 Alliance 的队长 LODA。那么首先还是祝贺你们队伍获得了比赛的胜利，这应该是你们队在新的版本下的第一次大赛的胜利。似乎你们找到了新版本制胜的秘诀，能给我们谈谈你对于这个版本下打比赛的一些心得吗
？First of all, congratulations on your victory, and this is probably your first win after such a new patch update. Can you tell us like how did you guys manage to win the game, and like what was the secret ingredient?
Well, first of all, thanks. It meant a lot to win the game. Our secret ingredient for this patch, I think, is we decided to go to this event and have a lot of fun. We try not to overthink things, and we gave Jerry, the master captain, the drafting position, and we just decided to trust each other, just make plays. Even if someone makes a bad play, never comment on it. Just believe in each other and have fun, and it seemed to work.
他们刚刚说的就是说，这个新版本出来的时候，他们就决定要放松心态，就是好好的尽情的享受比赛，然后就是不要互相怪罪彼此，然后他们也发挥出他们应该有该有的发挥。
所以其实关于对新版本的具体的战术理解根本就没有透露，我们可以理解，因为还在比赛当中。OK， 那我们知道在 Alliance 队伍里出现了几张新的面孔，可能对于 DOTA 2的观众，特别是中国的观众，可能来说没有那么熟悉。我们注意到 LODA 其实蛮乐于带新的选手来进入 DOTA 2，并且去组队来参加比赛，而且到目前为止做得也不错。那请 LODA 谈谈几个新队友在刚才比赛中的表现吧。
So there's a new face on your team this time around. And it seems like you're very willing to bring up new talents in the scene. And can you tell us what it's like to bring up these new guys and just like make everything work out so well?
I mean, it worked out this game. We've had a lot of troubles in the past. But I mean, I think the thing is, I kind of want to build the next generation of Swedish